Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince, and I am super excited to invite you to another edition of our podcast, Heal. Heal is an acronym for Help Elevate and Learn, and it's a guide for healing your inner child. And I am so excited to be able to share our special guest with you, and she's going to be coming up in a minute. But I also want to mention that we are sponsored by none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. So you can see why we're super excited to have BetterHelp come alongside and help us to bring these type of podcasts to you about mental health and about healing your inner child. And our guest today is none other than, well, in fact, I'm going to let her introduce herself because I don't leave anything out because I know she has so much to offer and so much to add. So I want to bring up to the screen right now, Miss Dr. Glenda Demas.
Hello. I am Dr. Glenda Demas, licensed professional counselor, health psychologist. I'm also a board member for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Greater Houston, and I'm excited to be on your show today.
Well, we are so excited to have you, and I've been looking forward to this all week because we've had nothing but a string of professionals on this podcast, and I just wanted to add you to the list because I know that you have something that's going to help us to see ourselves in a better light. So the first question that I have for you is, why do you think inner child healing is important? Why is that so critical for us to do even today?
So I always like to tell individuals that you have to heal the child within before you can become the best version of you.
Mm-hmm.
And what that actually means is taking a step back and evaluating areas in your childhood that may predicate to maladaptive behavior that you currently have as an adult.
Right. And I've oftentimes said that if you have something going on right now that's repeating that keeps coming up, that's a good indication that it was something that was rooted in your childhood. So
Absolutely.
right, exactly. So when do you think people should start? They should start in this kind of inner child work.
So I always like to recommend childhood healing when you've been triggered by something in your environment, and it's causing a different version of you, to be present. And a lot of that is it could come from relationships, it could come from circumstances that someone is challenging you in a different way, or even experiences of being having to promote or build your self-esteem. A lot of things that we experience that is negative behavior today, there's some sort of like root cause that may have been presented in your childhood that has gone unhealed, and you didn't realize that as a child that affected you. For example, if you grew up, in a single parent household and your mom was never supportive of any of your extracurricular activities, and not because she didn't want to be, but she couldn't be because she had to be at work.
Right.
And you didn't have anyone around constantly validating you and pushing you and reminding you how great of a job that you're doing, even though you're doing a good job. you're going to
Right.
have a need for that validation. You're going to have a need for that as an adult because you didn't get it. Now, some can possibly argue, well, you can't miss what you didn't have, right?
Mm,
Absolutely, you can miss what you didn't have
right.
because
Right.
innately we desire Maslow's hierarchy of needs tell you that we need that sense of security, that sense of reassurance. And when you don't get that, it's a void that doesn't go away. So you get into relationships and you look for your partner to constantly validate you, and if
Right.
you're not getting that, it begins to create negative behaviors in you. So those are ways in which, when you start seeing things like that, now it's time for you to start reevaluating some experiences that could have transpired in your childhood that's now predicating how you're navigating as an adult.
Right. Right. Well, I tell people all the time, you can pull all the leaves off a tree, but why would you be surprised if it bloomed again? Because all you did was just pull the leaves off. You didn't get to the root of the issue. And
Absolutely.
really understanding the root cause of some of the things that are reoccurring in our life is important.
Mhm.
And I remember sharing with the group that, all of us, we've had childhoods. I don't care how old you've had a childhood. The question is what type of childhood you had, and then were there any wounds or were there any traumas from that childhood?
So good you brought that in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we all had a childhood, but we all don't realize or wasn't brought to identify that some of the behavior in our childhood um, was not okay. Many
Right.
of us are classically conditioned to navigate based upon our environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you grew up in a home whereas there was no love and affection, you didn't see that, you were not reaffirmed, you're not reaffirming anyone else most of the time.
Right.
But you're not identifying that as bad behavior.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you're not identifying that as a challenge because, well, I mean, I turned out just fine and I didn't get constantly, reaffirmed, as how most people will view it. So you have to be open to others telling you or someone telling you, actually, no, yeah, you should have been, or you should have, been hugged, or you should have been, reminded that you're great. So it's about being open to seeing different perspectives and seeing how your childhood, doesn't necessarily mean that what you experienced was the absolute right way that things should have been done.
Right. And that is absolutely right. And that's one of the reasons why I actually wrote the book, because what I started to see was there are a lot of people that they don't see the connection between their childhood and their current behavior or lack thereof. And having to start the conversation, because that's what these podcasts are about. They're not about ending the conversation, but start the conversations about doing inner child work, inner child healing, and even our mental health as it surrounds our inner child wounds and inner child trauma.
Mhm.
So now I know you mentioned about talking to someone or kind of pointing that out. What's the best way that someone can actually bring up that subject of, I think you need some inner child work, or there are some things that have yet to be really worked on from your perspective? Is there a easy way or a right way to actually bring that up in a conversation?
No, and in the actuality, it can be quite offensive. If
Okay.
you don't make sure that, one, you have a good relationship with the person that you're sharing, that you feel they may need, some I'd say fine tuning as it relates to
Okay.
their childhood.
I
Because
like that. I like that fine
who am
tuning.
who am I to go to you and say, you have a bad attitude. Oh, you need to go back and figure out where in your childhood that, someone didn't listen to you, or, you have to be very careful when you're approaching people about, healing internally, healing past life experiences. And the best way, to do it is, if you've already done the work, share your experience, share your journey. you know, um, because that is what makes most individuals open to having dialogue, is when there's shared experiences, when one can identify, you know what, I often would become angry when someone corrected me. I don't know how to take constructive criticism. Well, that could relate to, being overly chastised, when, told that you've done something wrong. It's so many things, but you have to make sure that you're in a space that you've already worked on you before you can go to somebody else and tell them that they need to work on them. So no, there's no right way to do it, but there's definitely a wrong way to do it. And that wrong way to do it is to not have worked on you before you go and tell someone else that they should work on themselves.
Right, right. Well, I can definitely see how that can be an actual problem, and how people, well, like you said, can be offended by it. And so that's one of the reasons why, even in my book, I talk about how we don't, in fact, we shouldn't just heal our inner child first, well, or only, but after we've gotten to a certain point, that we should encourage other people to actually do the same. And I've gotten such a tremendous response from the book, because it really, again, raises people awareness of childhood traumas and childhood wounds that they may not have seen as, this is why I do that, or this is why I respond in this way. And I really like to, tell people, in a non-threatening moment, take a look at yourself, not when
Mhm.
the tire blows out, but if there's a slow leak, well, okay, let's get it fixed, instead of going 80 miles an hour down the interstate and it goes, pow. So taking the time to actually work on ourselves and see what it is we need to make adjustments in. And I've said this time and time again, my personal, like, development journey started, in fact, when I was in college, and I started asking questions of myself. I didn't have anybody pushing me or asking me or confronting me. I started confronting myself and started trying to figure out why I did what I did. And I found so much freedom in that, because if I critiqued myself, if I graded my own paper, if I spent time doing my own personal, in fact, development, there was less for somebody else to do.
Mhm.
In fact, once I got to the point to where I could actually start helping other people.
Mhm.
So, do you believe anybody can do inner child healing by themselves?
No, they cannot.
Okay.
Because there's absolutely no way for you to identify that something from your childhood has truly affected you without going through psychotherapy. So
Okay.
there's a difference between psychotherapy and counseling. Counselors focus on the here and now.
Hmm.
Psychotherapy, which is my area of focus and expertise, is when you back up and focus on past and how past experiences have affected today. And yes, as psychotherapists, we delve all the way back into your childhood and identify how that behavior may be linked to experiences from your childhood. So there's no way that a person could, proceed to attempt to do inner childhood work, without the support of a trusted mental health clinician that focuses on psychotherapy.
Right. Right. Well, even as I mentioned in the book and even on the podcast, if anything in the book triggered you, I told you, put the book down and seek professional help. And
Mhm.
even those who are tuned into the podcast, if you realize that you really need somebody to hold your hand and walk you through your healing process, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And again, that's why I say I want to start the conversation about our own mental health and the things that we can do to become better versions of ourselves, because ultimately that should be our goal, to be better than we were yesterday. And if something is holding us back, then we need to work on that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so tell us a little bit about your practice. And I know you say you're located in Houston,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I noticed on your website, in fact, you have a practice in Houston and in Atlanta. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, I'm licensed. So I am a psychotherapist. I'm
Mm.
licensed in Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, and Florida, with
Okay.
offices in all states, with the exception of Florida. I'm 100% telehealth.
Okay.
And I've been in practice now for 12 years. I, gosh, like, I'm the big most recent accomplishment is I developed a mental health wellness platform that services mental health, those that may be struggling with mental health disorders. And it's a resource community that provides resources, weekly, webinars and, things of that sort to kind of
Mhm.
remind individuals that you're not alone. And there's people that could very well be struggling with your exact same challenge. And hearing how they may have overcame that challenge, empowers you to keep going. So, yeah, that's the gist of me. My mind, my mental.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So, in reference to that, do you think that inner child work needs to be done in a group setting or individualized?
So, I personally, from my clinical perspective,
Mhm.
starting out, you definitely need to have one-on-one therapy to
Okay.
identify, to talk through um, what you've experienced. Now, you can end up in group therapy. For example, if you've experienced sexual abuse at the age of 7, 8, 9 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you now, at the age of 30, have uncovered those traumas and realize that this is what has happened to you. And you've been in therapy and you're working through it and you're still struggling, your clinician would highly recommend group therapy for you because shared experiences help you grow. When you
Okay.
hear that, wow, Kelly went through the exact same thing. She was sexually assaulted and she's thriving. I want to know personally from her I want to hear her story and hear how she's overcame. That's going to empower me to know that I can push forward. It's one thing to get the tools and the coping skills to continue to thrive from your therapist, but then when you hear a peer or someone that looks just like you, that's overcome that situation, you feel so much more, thrilled about your fight. So group therapy in the ending, as an additional intervention is
Mhm.
always great, but starting out, individual therapy is highly recommended.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can definitely see that, and having that type of support, but like you said, you you have to get to the point to where you are open to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because yeah.
No one can coach you through healing until you are in that space of wanting to heal. You've been triggered countless times and you realize, man, you know what? Why am I so angry all the time? Well, it's because I realized that I'm struggling with abandonment issues.
Mhm.
So those are things that we have to identify, but it only comes when you are in a space of acceptance.
Right. Right. And that's so so true. So, and speaking of that, i- if there's someone, in fact, that who has yet to get to that space of acceptance, is there anything that you can do for them to
Give
help
them
them?
grace. Give them grace because
Mhm.
everyone heals at their own time. You
Okay.
know, you may have embarked on this enlightening journey and you feel like everybody else around you, the only way they can be around you if they're healed, right? That's not true.
Mhm.
I'm very, very spiritually grounded. I always like to bring in biblical principles, you
Okay.
know, when given an opportunity. Think about God, Jesus,
Mhm.
he sat at the table with a lot of people that were not like him at all.
True.
He walked with a lot of people, uh, con artists, prostitutes. I mean, you
Right.
name it. He did it,
Right.
but his light, he didn't say, you can't walk alongside of me because you're not me. You're not like me. He met them where they were and he allowed him to be him and everybody else to rise up to where he was. And that's the type of grace that we want to give people on their healing journey. They're not there yet. Okay, great. Let's keep walking. And at some point, I know you're going to get there because who wants to continuously navigate in a space that is constantly triggering them, and they do absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So give grace is what I would highly recommend.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is it in a nutshell. So, if anybody wanted to connect with you, if they wanted to follow you, find out more about your practice, how would they do that?
So Instagram, I'm on Instagram as the_Dr. Yvette Demas, the_Dr. Yvette Demas. Website is www.pearlsofchange.com. And those are the two mediums that I would say would be the easiest way to contact me. From the website, you do have the ability to directly send an email to our office. So I won't try to provide that email address. I'd prefer to just give the website, www.pearlsofchange.com. In addition, if you're looking for a mental health platform to provide you with on-the-go psychological support, you can download My Mind, My Mental, all wise, My Mind, My Mental. It's on Google and Apple Play.
Okay. All right. So, do you have anything coming up that you want to tell us about, or anything in the works that you're excited about?
No, not that I can actually share. I do have some things that, I'm currently working on that I'm extremely excited about, but
Okay.
we can't share it right now. But we'll definitely circle back and, hop on this podcast with you and share how, the community can be a part really soon.
But that is always a blessing fact to be able to actually pour into other people and make resources available for them, and again, so that we all can wind up in a better place and a better place in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I do want to thank you for your time of being on my podcast today and sharing with us this valuable information, and have really opened up the insights I know of myself in some areas, and I'm truly appreciative of that.
My honor.
Well,
Absolutely.
so with that being said, we are getting ready to close out, but we want to again thank our sponsor, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal or choose Saconi Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Well, again, we want to thank y'all for tuning into our podcast today. And we are so excited to be able to bring these podcasts to you and actually share the book, which is none other than Heal, Help Elevate and Learn, a guide for healing your inner child. And notice I say this, a guide for healing your inner child. And again, we're starting the process. We're not trying to finish it. We want to start the process of becoming a better version of yourself. So with that being said, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we look for you. Definitely don't want to miss next week. Next week is going to be an amazing show, and we're going to do a special show next Wednesday. So you definitely want to check that out. We'll talk to you later.